Okay. I don't know if you saw, I didn't check if you saw my questions. They're very ambitious, like a lot of them. So
I did not see them, but I'm glad I didn't see them.
I know that's how I am too. It literally is like your bread and butter. So don't worry.
I'm not worried.
Not that you were worried.
I'm hoping for some tough ones, but you're a flat earther. You don't have any tough ones.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Hi, all, and welcome back to the Sovereignty series. I am very excited to be in conversation today with my new friend, David Weiss, and to hammer him with deep inquiry around the nature of this realm that we live in. And I want to start, Dave, with really sort of what I think is interesting archetypally as far as the human journey of awakening goes and exploration and inquiry into the nature of reality, with how it is that you started to question, and what, like we were saying before we started recording, why does it even matter, what the shape of the earth is? Because that was something I even told David Wolf. I remember in an interview I had with him, he was going on and on about how you could see part of Hawaii, from another part, that you shouldn't be able to see it because of the curvature. And I remember thinking in the interview, why does this guy care so much about this? Like, why does he have his panties in a bunch about this topic? And at that point, I really couldn't see its relevance because I still, wake up every day, do what I do. And whether I'm on a plane or a ball, honestly, I'll leave it up to NASA, right? So that's sort of part of how we disavow and really disempower ourselves, is to suggest and imply that it's not relevant. So how is it that you started down, I know you had a program called The Rabbit Hole. You started down the rabbit hole of this endless, process of inquiry.
Yeah, so deep inside the rabbit hole was my podcast, DITRH, right there. And I was open-minded to many, many deceptions. There's so many of them. It's like almost everything's a deception. And when Flat Earth came up, you probably heard me say it a million times, is I just banned those people from our social media for even suggesting that. Look, that's how strong the programming is, right? They get us before we can talk, and they indoctrinate us into the globe. Sesame Street, Disney, toys, everything, all the books. It's all about space and astronauts and every kid wants to be an astronaut. I mean, it's a prison for your mind. And so when you have a foundation of a globe, everything you learn in life, you build on top of that foundation. Okay. So, if I told you, people in your life aren't who they are, and I showed you, I've ripped the rug out from underneath you. Well, this is ripping the entire earth out from underneath you. Fortunately, it puts you on a level, stationary, non-moving, real foundation versus the spiraling, insane piece of nonsense. And so I was forced by many flat earthers pinging me, you got to look at this, you got to look at this. And then my friend Sophia Smallstorm, she said it, and I'm like, are you frigging kidding me? And I started going in to debunk it. I didn't go in to learn about it. I knew it wasn't real. I knew it from my foundation, which was a lie. And I went in to prove the globe and disprove flat earth. And that's how we all become flat earthers. When you see it, but the thing is, you can't see it if you're unwilling to look.
Right. And
most people are unwilling to look. And now, talk about ego and stuff. This is the death blow to your ego. I mean, this is a gut punch and a decapitation of your ego beyond what most people are willing to fathom. People, they build their little world around their belief system, and they live inside of that bubble. And when you pop that bubble and destroy all of, I love Star Wars and Star Trek. I grew up on that, right? And space is great. And I mean, wow, all of that goes away. It becomes something better and something more realistic and something within our reach versus impossible space. But that's how I got into it. And here I am. I went to college, I went to corporate America, left corporate America, started my own company. I'm the CEO of my own company. And it was going great, making tons of money. And I walked away from the whole thing. And the last straw, literally, I was like I felt something telling me, walk away. You need to walk away. And that's the craziest thought ever, right? Because I grew up in Fairfield County, right? And I was chasing the American dream like everyone's supposed to do. And I was thinking walk away. And then I was on the phone with Owen Benjamin, and he goes, Dave, just do it. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. He goes, just do it, Dave. He goes, just do it. You know, if you feel it. And that was the last straw for me. And I was like, okay. And here I am, and I couldn't be happier. Life is amazing.
I mean, like I was saying, the archetypal nature of these journeys is so replicable, right? So there always is. I call it like the moment where you lose something that you think you're going to die without is how you expand. But then there's also the sense that we have, literally the sense that we have that something is not, we don't have the full story. Like what actually is going on with this whole space thing, and what actually is, how does it work if we're spinning, and so we have that inner sense and we repress it. And then there comes a point at which you either let your entire understanding fall apart, and you have to be able to tolerate, I think on a nervous system level, that liminal space, like the space in between where you no longer believe what you did. You see that you were marinating in mythology for a long time, and you colluded with that on some level. And then you don't yet have the new story, because as we've talked about, like the logical fallacy is often that you can say that this isn't true, but then what is true, right? And we don't know a lot about the nature of reality for many reasons, including that it's not been researched in a way that we can access. So I want to focus a lot today on, you have a huge body of work, really myth busting, because that's where I feel most comfortable is saying, when it comes to health or, educational paradigms or agriculture and, corporate oligarchies, like here is what you thought was going on, and here is what actually was going on, but we don't necessarily know where we're going with that information, or I don't feel certain, by any stretch, the truth about health or the truth about cosmology. And I'd rather focus on what we know is not true, which I know you have a lot of expertise in.
Yeah, that's easy. We don't know what some things are, but we know what they're not. And we can scientifically prove that. One of the things that you said, I lost my thought. It was, I lost my thought. It'll come back to me. Sorry.
Sorry. If it comes back to you, just interrupt me. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to tee you up then, Dave, because I got a lot of questions. And I wanted to start with the most obvious one, right? Which is that apparently we are told that we live on a sphere, right? That the earth is a ball. We are indoctrinated from, as you said, kindergarten onwards. There's the globe is prominently figured. It's in our movies. It's like in all of these spaces. My kids and I laugh about it now. Every time we see the propaganda, it is ubiquitous. And so there are a couple of points that I have found compelling when it comes to really myth busting the fact that we live on a ball. And the three that I would love for you to sort of share a little bit about, including like what is the globe argument for these things, include like sight lines. So like I was saying, like things that we can see that we potentially shouldn't be able to see if there is curvature in the dimensionality that we're told there is. Aircrafts, like, what is the deal? Wouldn't an airplane be kind of like dipping its nose at all times during the flight? Does that happen? Is that important that we know that it doesn't? Has anybody ever asked a pilot? Right. And then similarly, like, or relatedly, engineering, right? What do we know about the way that bridges are built and railroads are, constructed? And do we know if any of these engineering plans are ever accounting for curvature? And if we know that they aren't, like, what are the implications of that? So I'd love to kind of just like address the shape question first.
Yeah, if we live on a ball, there has to be physical curvature. So here's our ball, kind of see-through because of my apparatus here. But as you go over the ball, there's a physical horizon. Now you can't see my fingernails, and even if I zoom in, you can't see it because it's behind a physical horizon. And on a ball, you're required to have a physical horizon. On a flat earth, the sky just comes together and meets the Earth, and that's the limit of your vision. And you could zoom in, make it bigger, right? And then you could see farther, but that's the limit of your vision. And our horizon is optical. The math for the curvature of the Earth and the 8 inches per mile squared that the globers go against, that's not the real formula. It's more accurate than the other formulas, favoring the globe, right? Favoring. It's less curvature than the real formulas say, up to 1,000 miles, close to 1,000 miles. And you can never see that far anyway. So we can see too far. Jay Tolan Media, at the time of this recording, just came out with a new video. He's the infrared long distance photographer guy that's seeing stuff that are ridiculous. That should be hundreds of miles below the curve, and he sees them.
Quite a bit into the distance, right over Goose Lake, in front of this mountain range. Oh, look at that. This is crazy. See, there's cloud cover too, but way above the clear mountain ranges which overlap. Look at that. See right there. Oh my God, those are mountains. Wait, I gotta lift the camera a little bit. Come on, up. Yeah, right there. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, so I've done some analysis which indicates those are pretty far. See, there's even farther ones there. As good as infrared is, after a while, it also gets attenuated, but it extends the range greatly. And see, in this zone right here, there's no precipitation, so we were able to pierce as far as we could. Yeah, that just blew me away.
Okay, you see them. There was a on Globebusters this week. They had a glober who was excited that from his island, wherever he lives in the northern hemisphere, like 20 degrees north, he could see the Southern Cross. The globers say, well, you can see the Southern Cross from 3 different locations at the same time, which isn't true. But, that's impossible on a ball. Well, no, because we don't know what stars are. Nobody knows what stars are. The only thing you can say is that they're lights in the sky. We don't know how big, we don't know how far, we don't know if they're even physical. But the fact that you can see them from 20 degrees north proves that the globe model's wrong. Do we know exactly what it is? No. I actually think that the southern stars might be a reflection of the northern stars. Okay? So that's part of the answer there. So there has to be a physical curve. There's also a video, a pilot flying from a great distance in, like a quarter way around the world. I forget the exact locations. I don't want to quote it wrong. And it was a nighttime flight, and he filmed the stars. You could see the star field in front of him. And if he's flying, that entire star field should start to rotate up, right? As he goes over the curve, those stars that are on the horizon should get higher. And he time-lapsed the whole thing, not knowing what he was doing, not realizing what he just filmed. And there was no angle change, right? In an hour's time, if the plane doesn't nose down, it's going to be 80,000 feet higher. Okay? 80,000 feet higher. Okay? That's absolute insanity.
Day after day, alone on a hill, the man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. Nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just a fool, and he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning around. Well, on the way, hid in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him or the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Nobody seems to like him. They can tell what he wants to do, and he never shows his feelings. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round and around, spinning around. And he never listens to them. He knows that they're the fools, and they don't like him. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning around.
And just real quick on the distance to the horizon, our eyes can only see. So here's the horizon, the sky meets the ground. And as we zoom in, we're just increasing the angular size. And as we do, we see there's a boat that we couldn't see before. Now, I didn't pull that up over the curve. We pulled it back into our view because that's how the horizon works, right? And as it goes away, these little waves in the front will cover it, like my fingers covering the boat, right? These little waves will hide the boat.
Right.
You're never taught to think this way in school, right? They just say, oh, went over a horizon because if a ship goes over a ball, it will disappear from the bottom up. True. But we don't live on a ball.
And what about the flight paths? Because we talked about, I remember reading that it would have to be something like, what did I say? It was like 3,000 feet per every minute. The nose of the plane would have to dip, right? Like this is like a significant effort for the flight. But then we also have the actual geography of flight paths that many people have devoted themselves to really studying, right? And that don't make sense on a globe.
So think about a globe. We got the northern hemisphere on the top, the southern hemisphere on the bottom. You got the horizon that goes around the midpoint. If you were going from any location in the north to any location in the north, any two locations, any combination, and you were flying, would you ever need to dip below the horizon? No, that wouldn't be the shortest path. I mean, north to north, you would never need to go below the horizon because you're going the wrong way. You want to go, you can maybe go across the horizon or over this way, but you would never go below the horizon. And guess what? That's true. No northern origin goes to a northern destination and crosses the equator, right? Makes perfect logical sense. Well, the same should be true for the bottom, a southern location to another southern location. But that's not what happens. When we on the southern trips, we go all the way up here and then all the way back down, right? And that's because where is that? Seattle? What am I looking at? I can't see it.
Chicago.
The stopover. Hold on. The stopover in Senegal. Okay, it stops in Senegal right here, right? It goes all the way up here. Why didn't it just fly across here, right? And they give you this, oh, it's a great circle route, or we're picking up more passengers. Nonsense. These people want to go here, and this is a straight line. This blue line is the equator. They cross the equator twice. That makes no sense on a globe. Okay, here's another one. This one stops in Los Angeles. Okay, from here, right? It goes all the way up here to Los Angeles and all the way back down. Now look at this strip. This flight, what if we just went over here? Oh, look, we made it to where we're going. But no, this is the path. They stop to get fuel. It's a long flight. Right? Which one makes more sense to you?
And there's many examples of this, right?
Many. So I'm going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, again, stopping in Los Angeles, looking at on a flat Earth map, makes perfect total sense. But then there's emergency flights, emergency landings. Sometimes someone's having a baby or a heart attack, and they have to land. So this flight here from Hawaii to New York, or New York to Hawaii, there was an emergency right about here. So they went 1,000+ miles out of the way to Seattle. And the funny thing is, how did they get there so fast? Emergency, they landed 15 minutes later. How did they travel 1,000 miles? Okay. Well, if you look at it, Seattle's right there. That's where the emergency happened. They landed. Okay. And that's not planned. So here's another one. This one went emergency, went all the way up to Moscow. Why did they go to Moscow? Because Moscow's right there on the flight path, on the direct straight line between the two of them. Right. Let's look at another one. Dallas, Beijing, stops in Calgary. I don't know. Is that 2,000 miles out of the way? Okay, 1,500 miles. Look at Calgary, right in line, straight line. How many times does that have to happen before somebody says, oh my God? But here's the thing. I just showed you some memes. If you believe me, well, that's a leap of faith. You're right to believe me because I've done the research for you. But belief is the enemy of knowing. You need to verify this stuff for yourself. And luckily for you, Eddie Flat Earth Banjo, who you probably know of, he's documented it all in this free PDF book, or you can order the book online. 16 emergency landings, all documented. The flight paths, the times, what happened, where they landed, everything. And so you can verify it yourself. There you go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I've become so sensitive to the semantics, and one word that has so permeated even spiritual teachers. I notice they talk about the law of gravity all the time, and like it's held up as this as the evidence of a force that we've all consensually agreed is real. So I would love to sort of switch over to that topic now and just really get your take. Like, what is the deal with gravity? Is it a thing? Is it synonymous with the pull towards the soil, if you will? And why should we maybe never use that word again?
Because it's a bad word. Kelly, so when you talk about gravity, first, science says gravity is just a theory, right? Globers say gravity is a law. Scientists say they don't know what gravity is. And 96% of it is unseeable. There has to be dark matter and dark energy, which no one's ever seen, no one's ever measured, but it has to be there for gravity to work. In science, if you have a theory and evidence comes up to show that it's wrong, you're supposed to throw out the theory. But instead, they start making up crap, okay? Dark matter and dark energy. Hysterical, okay? The other problem is the only true forces in this world are electricity and magnetism. That's a fact, okay? And the Earth has a negative charge to it. The Earth does not move. The sky, the air, has a positive charge to it. And negative attracts positive. Well, the negative isn't moving, and it says, okay, attraction down this way. Now, that's not a theory. There is, electrical charges, electromagnetic, electrostatic charges. These are scientifically proven real things. And the electrostatic charge, they say, is like 10 to the, I don't know how many zeros, stronger than the theorized gravitational force. Okay? So, you know that the electrostatic force is real. You believe the gravitational force is real. Okay. How do you know what pulled the microphone when I dropped it? Well, the electrostatic force is 10,000 times stronger than the gravitational force. Okay. Might even be more than that. So how did they separate that? Right. So the way I see it, this is our testable theory, is that the sun and the moon are the anode and the cathode. The land is the salt bridge. The land is the salt bridge, and the salt water carries the current. It's a big battery system. Okay. And, that's where all of this charge comes from. We are electrical beings, right? Everything is electrical, right? Without electricity, we're all, the natural electricity, we're nothing, right? All the movements, everything, our thoughts, everything is electrical. okay, and magnetic, right? Sending out waves and stuff. So how can you test some of the stuff? First, let's talk about real quick the three-body problem. In science, they are unable to predict what three bodies do. They can get a computer, say, all right, got a sun, it's got this much gravity, got a planet, put it around, and they can predict what it's going to do forever. Perfect, right? Add another body into that, one more body, just three. And the whole thing goes into chaos mode. They can't figure out what it's going to do. They could theorize what it's going to do, and they get it right for like, I don't know, a minute or whatever, but then that's it. Then the whole thing goes into chaos mode, right? Well, how do we have, just our solar system alone has planets and moons and all sorts of stuff and comets coming back and forth every 76 years. Nonsense. Alignments, right? The sun is holding on to all of the planets, but it ignores all of the moons. Okay? And when all the planets line up, they don't tug anything out of place, right? The sun doesn't pull the moon away from the water. The sun can hold on to the earth. It ignores the moon, but the moon can pull our oceans away from the earth and can pull our earth away from the other side of the ocean. You know that story. We'll get into that later. It's absolute insanity. The reason people don't understand this is because it's ridiculous. It's absolute insanity. So just real quick, this is an experiment that Zach, Good Times for All, did. Got these helium balloons tied to this wire that has just a button on the end of it, and it's equilibrium, a couple inches off the floor. Well, that wire is going to a Van de Graaff generator, and he's going to add a positive charge to it. So they're going to crank in a positive charge added. Just changing the charge of it, it's more attracted to the floor. Then they discharge it, and it goes back up. That's evidence that what I'm saying is overriding this gravitational nonsense. And here's the opposite of that. This tinfoil triangle, we put a negative charge into it, and it goes up. And it's still wired, so we still keep a negative charge in it. And what's it defying? Gravity or electrostatic forces? I say the latter.
Right. And then it sort of calls into question even the concept of orbits, another term, this concept of orbiting that we never see in our material reality made manifest. And we're just supposed to believe that it is a phenomenon that's out there somewhere. So one of the things, for me, this has been like a very Socratic process of just sort of like these questions that have arisen for me. And one of them is like, just from the basic physics I know from going to MIT, how could it ever be that a vacuum is next to proximal to a non-vacuum without a barrier, right? And so we have all of this
gravity,
right? So you can see why this magical theory is necessary. And when you wonder about, because if you don't believe that there's such a thing like a firmament or some sort of enclosure, and it's just this atmospheric strata that somehow goes into the vacuum of space, and somehow these machines are able to like propulse and move in a vacuum. You just need to know basic physics to begin to have a number of questions about how that could possibly be, right?
They make up all sorts of things about space. It's infuriating, to be honest. Think about an astronaut in their spacesuit. You've seen them do the spacewalks. They more look like snowboarding suits to me, and they're soft. Well, they have atmospheric pressure in there. You know what happens when you take away the air? One, you can't breathe, and two, your blood and saliva boils. Okay, and what happens when you take something and pull the air out from around it? It explodes. Astronauts in their suits should explode like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, okay? But they don't. They're out there. They spend 6-7 hours out there, and they tighten one nut, and they move something, and they save the day, right? And with these big clunky gloves on and things all over the place, it's absolute mind control nonsense, right? So never, Mark Sargent has a challenge out there that he'll go into a vacuum chamber with an astronaut, both wearing spacesuits, and do it. And no one will ever take him up on it, because the last time NASA tried to put an astronaut in a vacuum chamber, before they got half the air out, he passed out and almost died. And his tongue started boiling, and and they had to quickly depressurize it. Nobody wants to address that, right? Like when you go on an airplane and if you have a water bottle that's half full, if you go to altitude, just that slight pressure difference in the cabin, slight, tiny, it's pressurized. Or if you close it at altitude and when you go down, it crushes. Okay, that's a slight difference. Imagine a massive difference that you would even notice, right? We barely notice it. Maybe our ears pop once or twice, and that's nothing. And then look at the moon lander. The moon lander is insane. It's made of, they even said if they dropped a wrench, it could go right through the wall. Well, what's holding in the pressure, the atmosphere? None of it makes any sense.
No. I mean, why do you think that the faked moon landing was important for this agenda, right? Because I could look at like Event 201 or, some of the ways in which this same PSYOP architecture has been replayed, where they show in plain sight what they're up to. It's so obvious and clear, so that dissonance is like rattling around and you just enter a state of learned helplessness where you say, well, it doesn't entirely make sense, but what do I know? I'm not an expert, forget it. And meanwhile, they've shown you that they're up to theatrics, right? It's available if you have eyes to see. So that was a big deal though, right? Like the moon landing was a big part of the agenda.
That was right after Admiral Byrd went out, and whether that was controlled information or not doesn't matter. Said there's more land beyond the shoreline of Antarctica, beyond the poles. Interesting. Makes no sense on the ball. Filled with resources. And then they're like, okay, Antarctic Treaty, nobody can go there. Hey, we're going to the moon. That's someplace that you can never prove. And we can say anything we want because you can never go there. And we did it 6 times in the 1960s and 70s. And we can't do it again today. Okay? I mean, just go watch any of the moon footage. It's absolute insanity on how bad it is. It's laughable. Okay? And the from the jumping around, right? These guys are hanging from wires. And I saw one clip years ago, it got taken away, where they literally had like a massive, a 15-foot wide balloon hooked to the wires, right? And they're in this giant hangar jumping around with the balloon, and they're jumping up and down on a balloon, kind of like this baby. Okay? Yeah. And then the lunar ship went to orbit, and then the lander broke away and landed, and the orbiter, one astronaut stayed on the orbiter. So this is footage from NASA on the orbiter. Well, he's on there alone. Who's filming this and panning the camera to watch his papers floating in the sky? This is just done on a 0G plane. And look, the camera's panning. He's alone in orbit, according to NASA. Right?
It's just mockery. It's literally mockery.
It is mockery, but the reason is they want you to believe that you can live on under the ball. They want your mind in outer space. They want to hide the creator. They want you to believe you're insignificant. They want you to believe in nonsense, right? Right? Here's a challenge I have for NASA. Put an astronaut in this suit and drop him off in the Mojave Desert mid-noon for an hour and see if he's alive. Right? Right? This thing has to withstand temperatures 250 degrees above Fahrenheit to negative 250 degrees every 90 minutes or whatever it was, wherever they are. Put them in the desert where maybe it's 120 degrees and see if he lasts 10 minutes.
And there's like quite a dearth, right, of live feed images or even basic photographic images from the ISS or any of these. Right, we were texting about this recently. Any of these, NASA funded technologies, we don't have the visuals that we would otherwise expect, right?
Yeah, correct. And if you watch any of the 24/7 NASA footage, space station, it's the same clip again and again and again. And if you watch the horizon, it's like this in one shot, then it's like this. And sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's a U, right? And you could, I don't know why they don't use better green screen images rather than just a fisheye lens or whatever they're using. It changes. If it keeps changing, they're faking it. I mean, they're absolutely faking it. For example, if you look at the Chinese space station, and this is where is it? Here. This is what the Chinese space station. Now, China had they built a space station. They forgot to photograph it or video it while they were building it, just like the ISS. And they showed kind of a flat Earth, and then it kind of morphed into a pear, and then it eventually morphs into a sphere. What are they showing us? Okay, what are they showing us? It's absolute nonsense. This was from their live feed. So, using a critical thinking, this is fake. We never went to the moon. NASA's lying. Earth is flat.
At the end.
And I don't know if you saw this. They're doing experiments, and they have a glass of water on the table.
No, they want us to know. That's the only explanation I can come up with is there's enjoyment in the game of this. Like they want us to know. They want there to be all of these holes in the story. And that's, first of all, the power of, like you said, trauma-based mind control is that we will literally, I mean, it's the same as a trauma-based romantic relationship. You will literally not perceive and see the red flags in your partner because of the overlay, because of the power of that idealization. And it's the same thing. It's just, they know how trauma works. That's my philosophy anyway. And they're really masters in this realm. So it's almost comical. I mean, that's why, like, I don't find any of this disturbing. I find it enlivening. Like I find it funny and amusing. And I just,
they say follow the money. I was listening to Owen Benjamin. Hey, someone told him an insider that was giving him some tips said follow the funny.
Yes.
Follow the funny because they're mocking us.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's I'm with you there that they're just doing it and saying, oh my God, we can get away with whatever, right?
Whatever. They're just like eating their non-GMO popcorn. So I want to talk about the sun, right? Because I had all sorts of questions about sun and sunlight. And I want to ask you some of them. So, and these are common questions that people ask as they start to research this, right? So if the sun is 94 million miles away, how is it that, like, let's say a 4,000 mile difference between like Africa and Antarctica has such a dramatic meteorologic difference, right? And nobody, okay, so let's start there.
So
does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but their answer is, well, it's the tilt of the Earth, right? And they want their cake and eat it too. So they say that the sun is at a far distance, and we call it an infinite sun. So far that all of the rays come in straight. Okay, so imagine my finger is the sun coming in, and this beam of light from the sun just lights up a small circle right here, okay? But if the Earth was tilted away, that beam of light would make a kind of bigger oval, right? Mm-hmm. So that beam of light would spread out. It's not the distance. This is the globe story. It's just that it's spread out, okay? So to understand that, so that the intensity is now spread over an area 3 times the size. But that beam of light is parallel to another beam of light, to another beam of light, to another beam of light, there's just constant light coming. So why is it spreading out? It's all just hitting, right? Make those beams of light the thickness of a hair, and each one is going to hit the Earth on the same intensity. Okay? But where do you live? What state?
Florida, Miami.
Okay. So up here in Connecticut, it gets cold in the winter. Okay?
Oh, I'm familiar. I lived there. Yeah.
Okay. So imagine you and I it's February, and we're sitting in a football field, and it's frozen solid. It's just freezing. And we're sitting 25 feet apart because we don't want to catch okay. We're sitting 25 feet apart. And then somebody comes over and holds a heat lamp 15 feet over your head, a big heat lamp. Whew, it's radiating heat down on you. All the snow melts out around you. And you're like, take off your shirt, right? And I say, that's your summer sun. Point to it. You go, right there. Okay. But from my point of view, it's over there. It's not up high. It's down lower. It's over there, 20 feet away. Now, if that person walked over to me, keeping it at the same height, I would watch it get higher and higher and higher until it got right over me. And then the snow would melt here, and your water would refreeze because it's gotten lower and lower and lower to you and farther away, just like we see the sun go away. Right now here in Connecticut, sun's high. In Miami in June, the sun's directly over Miami, straight down. Okay? That's why it's so friggin' hot. Okay? And for us, it's hot because it's still close to us, but it's not directly overhead. It's over there. And now it's going away. It's moving back out south. Those rings are getting wider and wider. So let me just show you right here. So in my app, we have the sun goes around. The inner yellow line is June 21st. That's the Tropic of Cancer. And now you can see the sun is actually already moving back out towards the equator. And by December 21st, it'll be out over the Tropic of Capricorn, when Australia will have their summer. We'll have our winter because it's farther away. Now, Florida is way down here. It's not too far from Florida. It stays pretty nice, especially in Miami. Everything in between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer is called the tropics because the sun is always there, never getting too far from you. So you have, that's where all that tropical, seasons are. It always stays warm. Here in the north, it gets colder and colder as the sun goes out, right? And the same thing out here, right? Antarctica, the sun never gets beyond the Tropic of Capricorn. So the farther out you go, the colder it gets, unless, of course, there's something out there like another sun. Okay? So that's why there's these extreme differences, right? So if I march the sun forward to December, there we go, boom. December 20th, Australia has a warm sun. I'm freezing my butt off here in Connecticut. You're doing okay in Florida. It's just the relationship of where it is. They tell us that in the north, in the helio-nonsensical BS model, that the sun is 3.5 million miles farther than it is during our winter. 3.5 million miles closer in our winter and farther in our summer. And it's just the tilt that changes. Well, that makes no sense because in June, I can go down to the water and watch the sun appear on the horizon, and I can immediately feel the heat, get a tan, right? That's the most severe tilt possible, right? That's me if I'm here in Connecticut. Where's House Connecticut? Here, and the sun's over here. The sun's literally skimming across the earth. It's the most severe angle. It's not coming in like this. It's coming in like this at sunrise. And I could feel the heat on my face. But in December, when the sun is up here at noon, right? It's coming in at a fairly good angle. I can't even feel the heat on my face. I can look at it. I won't get tan. I can barely feel the heat. And it's 3.5 million miles closer. Does that make any sense to a thinking mind?
Right. No, I've had the same, question. And then also, why is it that nights and days don't flip from June to December?
Well, the explanation for that is that the Earth rotates, it's 4 minutes slower every day, and by the time it gets around, it's 12 hours difference. Okay? But that makes no sense. And if you're right here, it's noon, and the sun is directly above you, right? Because you're standing sideways on a ball, of course, in a space vacuum without something, right? And so that's noon, and somebody standing over here is looking that way. That's midnight. Okay. And you spin around 12 hours later, you're here. 12 hours later, you're over here. Well, by the time you go all the way over here, that slight different turn is your day and night would work. However, the problem is people looking over here can see the same stars as the people that are looking in the opposite direction. Makes no sense.
Crickets.
The zodiac stars are visible all year long. Orion all year long. Makes no sense whatsoever. And the way they get away with it is they make it so complicated that people short circuit. No one's taught to think like this. You and I decided to use our brains. They told us in school, you only use 10% of your brain. They don't want you using the other 90%. Okay. Because you might connect with nature, source. You might listen to your soul speak to you. You might do a lot of things. You might understand what sacred geometry is. You might, start looking into ulterior things like cars that run on water. God, can't have that because you can't regulate that. Okay. So there you go.
The stars are also in their fixed position while we are moving, right? All of this dimensional movement, 1,000 miles an hour, 66,600, what is it? 1,000 miles. It's just all of these layers of movement.
And they never change. I want everyone go out tonight, find a spot, take a picture of the stars at a certain time, put a note in your calendar to do the same thing next year, same night, same time, and then compare them. Every star will be in the same position, even though we traveled 4.5 billion miles. Okay. 4.5 billion miles. Give me a break. Okay. And then the other thing is when you look at stars, they believe that they're these burning suns and they tell us how big some of them are. Polaris is 48 times bigger than our sun. Okay. So for it to be the same size as our sun, you'd have to have it 48 times as far as our sun. And then they would both look the same size. How come we don't have different size stars? We have sun and the moon, which are the same, and all the stars, which are the same. How come we don't have middle-sized stars, right? How come, so let's just go back to Polaris for a second. So our sun, if it was right next to us, would fill the whole sky. Move it 93 million miles away, 8 light minutes. It's the size of a coin. Double that distance. I don't know. It's tiny, right? That's 15 minutes. Double that. It's a light half hour. Double that. So we're 8 times as far. We're at a light hour. You couldn't see the sun at a light hour. Well, Polaris is 48 times farther. 1 hour times 48 is 2 light days. We just proved that you can't see Polaris at 2 light days away. And they don't tell us it's 2 light days away or 2 light weeks away or months away or years away. It's 433 light years away. Your brain just short-circuited. You can't actually fathom the discrepancy there. It's absolute insanity, right? And then that distance, you don't even understand what that distance is. I can't fathom it. The closest star is 25 trillion miles away, 4.5 light years, okay? If you were going 100,000 miles an hour, it would take you 28,000 years to get there, okay? 28,000 years. You can't even fathom what 28,000 years is because I don't think 28,000 years even exists. Okay.
So what do you think is, obviously who knows, right? But what do you think is a more likely relationship between the sun and the moon, distance-wise?
Yeah.
Illumination-wise and this plane?
I think that the sun that we see is not the actual source of the sun and that it's much closer. It's super close. Go out on a clear day. Look at the sun, look at the moon when it's in the day sky, which is, you should see it today, this evening. And you can see the sky behind it. It's here within our system. I believe when I see the sun rising on Long Island Sound, that it's less than 60 miles away. That's my opinion. The sun that I see, right? If you're 10 feet over from me, you see a different sun. I think it's more of a reflection, for lack of a better word. So sun is behind me, or light, street light, whatever. There's a light behind me. You and I are standing 25 feet apart. We're looking at a giant mirror, giant upright mirror. Now we get a third person, and I walk up to the mirror and I say, okay, I see the sun right there. They get a Sharpie. They draw a nice circle around the sun. I'm like, yep, the sun is right in that circle. They walk over to you. They're going to draw a circle 25 feet from my circle. We're looking at 2 different suns. But that sun has heat, and you feel the heat coming from behind you. You'll also feel the heat coming from that mirror equally. Okay? Go outside, get a giant mirror, get the sun, and point it at your friend. Right? You're going to cook them. Okay? And when you realize that all of this is just energy, right? It's all energy. Like I was in the solar power business, and the scientists don't know how solar power panels work. They have a theory like gravity. It's the dumbest theory ever. Okay. But in reality, the panels are just collecting electricity from the sun. Put a plant in front of a fire and put a plant in front of a electric light. One's going to shrivel up and die. The other one's going to grow.
Wow. And what do you think about the moon? Because I know that a very common perspective in this large and diversified community is that the moon is a luminary and emanates its own light that is entirely different and not reflective of the sun's light.
So the big argument is, well, the moon looks round and the earth is round. Well, the lights on my ceiling look round, but my floor isn't round, right? And you don't know what shape these are, right? Does that look like a sphere? Flat. Okay. Does that look like a sphere? Right. So the shape of the moon, unless you can put your hands on it and measure it, isn't gonna mean anything. So what was your question specifically about the moon?
About its light.
Yeah. So, here is a similar surface to the moon. How come it's not reflecting light, right? I go out on a full moon night in the middle of nowhere. I can read a book. It's casting my shadow on the ground, right? And then if you actually use science, the inverse square law of light, every time you double the distance to a light source, it's 1/4 of the brightness because that light is spreading out like sound. If you were a mile away and I yelled at you, you couldn't hear me. But if I yelled in a PVC pipe, you would hear me because it's channeled. It's not spreading out. Okay. So light spreads out. So for the moon to be the brightness that we see it, if you do the math, at 100 miles away where the astronauts supposedly took that beautiful picture of the moon, the moon would have to be like over 60 times brighter than we see the sun from Earth, just for its light to get to us at the intensity that we see it. These numbers are incomprehensible because you can't imagine the sun twice as bright, right? You can't even look at the sun. What twice as bright, it's going to melt my eyeballs, right? So is the moon its own light? I think the moon produces its own light. I think that there is a connection between the sun and the moon lights up. Because if it was lit by a single source light, well, there would be a hot spot and it would get dimmer towards the edges if it was a sphere. To me, I think it emits its own light. If you about the focus, if you magnify moonlight, it gets colder.
Right.
That's weird, right?
I've attempted that experiment, except I live in too urban an area to actually get sufficient moonlight. I even brought like a little thermometer and everything because people have recorded this. There's like dozens of.
And by the way, there's a million ways to get that wrong. You'll put someone will get a piece of cardboard and put it over the ground. Well, that's insulating the ground. Okay. But if you do it right, you get the results. But the Globers will take, oh, look what this guy did. Therefore, everyone's wrong, right? Right? Everyone's wrong. So you have to make sure you do that right. And I don't lead with that one because there's so many people that have done it wrong that's all the Globers will hold on to. You could show a Glober a million proofs, but then one person did one thing wrong and that's it. That's it. Right? And this whole interview just went to pot because you just did the 666 sign with your hand. And now they're going to go, you're an Illuminati shill and none of this is real, right? This is all they have.
And that's why I really admire and applaud you for bothering to debate, because for me, at least at my stage
I don't really debate. I ended up, they begged me to go on that show and have Professor Dave on. They said it would be not a debate where I would get to pose questions to him and he would have to answer them. And none of that ever happened. And now Google puts that as a #1 hit when you search flat Earth. But the good thing is anyone that's a flat earther sees that and goes, what a tool that guy is. And anyone that hates flat Earth, that Googles flat Earth, finds that they're sending me messages going, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I think you're crazy, but why did he behave like that? Yeah. Right? Why did that professor, who's not a professor, and then I send them my playlist of, which I call the Crash Course, which is on my website. And then they watch it and then they come back to me. They're like, oh my God, this stuff is real. So that video, God bless that it's up front, is waking up tons of people that would never have looked. Yeah. If it wasn't for not a Professor Dave.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few more questions before we
Shoot.
wrap up. One is one, maybe because I live near the ocean, that my friends ask all the time as if I know the answer, which is what's the deal with the tides? If it's not the moon's gravitational field pulling on the water, then what might be going on? Of course, it's just a suggestion because my guess is that you don't actually have certainty around it, but you know that it's not the moon's gravitational field.
Yeah, so they tell us that the moon is pulling a hump of water away from the Earth. Okay, it's ridiculous. Thank you for laughing because it's so stupid. But think about this: if it pulled a hump of water away and the moon's lined up with the middle of the ocean, it would be low tide at all the lands because it's pulling the water away, but it's high tide. Okay, and then at the same time, there's low tide here and here, 6 hours away, and then another 6 hours away, there's a high tide. Okay, this is what they tell us, and the science explanation is, well, the moon is pulling the water away from the Earth, but because the water on this side of the Earth is farther than the Earth, the moon is pulling the Earth away from the water, causing a secondary hump. That's the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
So many layers
Right.
to just,
And then the Earth is spinning within that hump. What? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And then someone, this meme says, well, how come if the moon is above the cloud, well, why is the water falling down? Or why is it coming down slower? Right? Under a full moon, if you drop a drop of water, it should fall slower if it falls at all. Okay. And why doesn't the moon affect fresh water? There's only saltwater tides. Okay. But when you look at where high tides are, there's all of these little high tides and low tide null places and places that have no tides. There is no correlation to high tides and low tides with the moon. Although when there is a full moon, we do have bigger tides. And that's because the moon, in my opinion, is powered up, right? And that electric force that it's sending here has something to do with the saltwater currents, okay? There's also, many stories from the inner north where you have the four continents and the rivers, and that the water goes in and out twice a day, like the Earth is taking 2 deep breaths every 24 hours, okay? And that's why we have 35-foot tides in the north and no tides on the equator in some places, okay? The Maldives are a foot above the water. They don't flood, okay? What's up with that? Right. So this whole thing, and then if you look at this and you line it up with the magnetic lines of the Earth, there's a lot of matching. It matches the cloverleaf magnetic fields of coming out of the center of the Earth. So the magnetic fields, the Earth, maybe pulling water in and out. These things make sense. The correlation with the moon is a myth. And people just believe it.
Right. Amazing. So what do you say to people, because there are people in the activism community, who are absolutely not on board with this level of inquiry, right? So very often when it comes to activism and truthing or whatever, everybody has their threshold beyond which they are unwilling to inquire further. Right. And what do you say to people who say that the whole flat earth thing is a psyop? It's a CIA psyop, and it's designed to capture and render ridiculous truthers who would otherwise.
I said that. I said that. And then somebody asked me, do you have any proof of that? I'm like, well, it has to be. I'm like, well, why does it have to be? What's your best globe proof? I'm like, if it's a psyop and the Earth is a globe, give me one globe proof, right? Just one globe proof. One globe proof. Think about that. One globe proof. No, nobody can come up with one. I have the challenge. Watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks on the app, and then send me one globe proof and you win 3 Bitcoins. Okay? 3 Bitcoins. That's what is it now? $70,000 bucks.
That's not a good moment to evaluate that.
It's all right. It's 70 grand. It used to be 150. That's okay. All right. It's all right. I'll give you 3 Bitcoins, and my opinion, they'll be worth a hell of a lot more if you hold on to them. So nobody, even the professional anti-flat earthers have come up with a single thing, right? And if you can't come up with one proof of the globe, then why do you believe, right? Where do I live? Where do I live? Kelly?
Connecticut?
Okay. Is that a belief or do you know it?
At this point, it's a belief.
It's a belief.
Yeah, have not
Now,
confirmed.
you don't feel the need to go confirm it because one, you don't care. Well, let's say you did care. And you're like, well, he's a good guy. He's in, I spoke with him. I don't think he's lying. Okay. Still a belief.
Yeah.
If you want to know it, you have to go figure it out. Well, it wouldn't be too hard. Go on Facebook and see my friends and then see that, well, they all live here in Connecticut, a lot of them. And, oh, look, here's his yearbook. And he grew up in Connecticut. And he went to high school in Connecticut. Okay, now you know. Time and effort to know things. But if a guy in a bow tie who lies tells you this is the way it is, well, he did all the studying for me. I don't have to do anything, right? Jaron always says, if you want to be rich, somebody told him, but he always says it. If you want to be rich, invent something that makes people lazier. Okay. Because people are lazy. Think about this. People don't want to cook, so they go get fast food, right? You and I don't eat fast food. We know better. But could be lazier? Well, if you're sitting on your couch playing Xbox and you want fast food, what about a delivery service that would deliver the fast food, right? DoorDash. Okay. It's like $1 billion. It's ridiculous because people are lazy. I'm like, no one's going to use that. Now, all these morons are using it. Okay. It's probably useful for some people, maybe people that are, don't have a car, crippled, whatever, or can't leave the house, whatever. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it makes people lazier. It's a win-win. But flat Earth, I've studied more on flat Earth than everything else in my life combined. Nonstop since 2014, 2015. Okay. Nonstop because it's fascinating. It's freeing. Okay. Right. At the beginning, I remember what I was going to say. Okay. I remember what I was going to say. Your soul is the true you, is your source, your soul. That's my belief. The souls come incarnate here, and your soul knows the reality of everything, but came here agreeing to have amnesia and figure this place out and have this adventure. This is a training school, in my opinion. And they're steering our mind with the news, with fear, news, northeast, west, south, fear, false evidence appearing real. And you lose track. You become lost in this satanic system. And your soul's trying to speak with you, but they've taught us, don't listen to the voices in your head. Listen to the textbooks provided by the bankers that teach you how to become good banking customers, not to become bankers. Okay. Look at and so that's why people, in my opinion, are lost. Something's wrong, as you were saying. Neo at the beginning of the Matrix, something's wrong with the world. He's depressed. I think depression comes from it, and I know for a fact, gotten multiple letters from people saying I was depressed. I was actually considering suicide. Found your videos, found the flat Earth, and now I found the Creator. I found a reason to live. I'm doing all of these different things, starting a family. I mean, it is not what the controllers want. They want people being lost in space, scared, and giving away all their power, not to know that they're at the center of creation. Now, all of these people that are, fighting, like truthers that don't want to go there, they're just mind controlled. They haven't broken free yet. Doesn't mean that they're shills. It means that, when you're in fear, I think evil spirits can get in you and control you. However you want to look at it. Is it an entity in you, or is it just an energy? Okay. Like negative people love hanging around with negative people, right? Like if you were in a bad mood and you're going to a social gathering and somebody comes and they're happy and bubbly and having a good time, you'd be like, I hate that person. And you go get another drink or whatever. But people, birds of a feather flock together. So when you find flat Earth, you all of a sudden can see through everything. You said earlier, well, I'm going to keep it. This going on YouTube, right? Yes?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Well, you said, I I don't think any flat earthers fell for the V thing. Okay. Right. And that's true. Like they're all awake to it. It's very interesting. Why does it matter? I got a video coming out on the app next week called Why Does It Matter? I Still Have to Go to Work. Okay. And it's fantastic. It's by another a guy that's on TikTok. Amazing video. So why does it matter? Because it changes everything. It changes the playing field to an actual field where you can go play.
When I first started to research this, and of course it is a rabbit hole, and put like thousands of hours of research into this topic, one of my girlfriends said, you know what's so funny? I can see that as opposed to so many other activist related topics that I've researched that put me into a state of urgency, fear, and then I need to spread the fear. So I need to spread the information urgently. She said, I can see that this really feels good to you. And that's been exactly my experience, that there's something about awakening from the anesthesia of what we are told about our reality and all of the associated infrastructural power, entities, that it results in like a restoration of mystery and awe and wonder, where when I think about these, when I explore, what is, and I actually don't know, right? I actually feel enlivened by that. I mean, I enjoy the things that are clear, the flatness, the stationary nature of things. But then, you and I have discussed, because we're in a group of colleagues who share these beliefs, and people would be shocked to know how many of the, elites in the truther realm have already come to this, but, for reasons related to social pressures and all of the enculturation around this being the real lightning rod, have not come out publicly about their beliefs. And, we've talked about the possibility that, you shared an image of all of these potential other realms, that could be out there. I mean, we don't know, and that's the way it should be, because we're in a process of discovery. And when we awaken from having been told what is, and the preposterous nature of these explanations that can only lead you to logical tangles, in defiance of your own right mind, then it feels good.
Here's the thing. When you talk about planets and space missions and all of this stuff, space is scientifically impossible. Yes. Vacuums of space, burning balls of gas, nebulas, which are gas and dust in a vacuum. That
by their own rules.
Yeah, it just breaks every rule, right? Versus this, where like we live here in this pond, and these other ponds 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 miles away are other worlds. This is scientifically possible on a flat Earth. Extraterrestrials coming from 10,000, 20,000 miles away, 50, 100. Not light. A light minute is ridiculous. It's absolute insanity. Okay. A light. I never done the math. I think, if let's say each one of these was 50,000 miles as a light, I think a light minute goes like 100 times farther than this map even shows. Okay. 1,186,000 miles per second times 60. Right. Forget it. It's just stupid. It's just dumb. All right. So once people see that, like I've been reaching out, I did a coast to coast AM radio, and that's with George Norrie. He has all of these UFO guys on there. He has the Roswell guy on there. He has, the guy from the Disclosure Project, and you got Stephen Greer and Stephen Bassett, the Disclosure Project, and Richard Greer. I'm spacing on their names. Stephen Greer. All of these alien guys.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that they're saying. Now, some people say, well, he's controlled opposition. Get away from that. The stuff that they're talking about doesn't work in impossible space. It all works here. Roswell, what if the spaceship that came from Roswell came from our own pond, just the outer lands, hit some radar that we had going, some scalar waves, crashed, and they actually captured something? That makes sense, rather than coming from, if they came from the closest star. Remember the 100,000 miles an hour, 28,000 years to get here, and then they crashed in Roswell. It's so dumb that I have a hard time not screaming. Okay? So, there's more and more people coming out and, Peggy Hall just made a flat Earth comment just today or yesterday. If space is fake and the Earth is not immovable. And she might be coming from a biblical perspective, but I also think that she's watching some of our stuff. I think that she's a smart woman. And here's the thing: people like Peggy, people like other people doing stuff about the nonsense that's going on in the world. If they know, it's okay that they don't talk about it because they're on another horse right now getting a very important message out. If somebody came out and said, the Earth is flat, their other message will get obscured by all of the people that haven't figured it out yet. So the release is coming. If everyone screamed it at the same time, that'd be awesome because then there'd be no way. But we're one tweet away from this going worldwide. And this is the one that changes everything. This is the one that gives us our freedom back because you can't have freedom if you don't know where you are, if you don't know where that freedom is, if you don't know who you are.
Yeah. And from, I look through a trauma lens at most of what we believe. And I do think that the last vestige is this hope, this childlike hope that we have benevolent parents, right? Like it's the attachment to the concept that, oh yes, it was difficult, but in the end, they did tell us the truth, and there are some shreds of goodness left, right? And what it is to completely give up that hope. And I say, like, give up the hope of ever getting the love you wanted from your parents. I think that's an essential maturational threshold that we must cross in order to reclaim the delight of our sovereignty and independence. And you cannot cross that threshold when you still believe that they told us the truth about cosmology, right? When you need to believe that they would never lie to that. It's not possible that they could lie about this big thing. How would that be? And yes, it's possible. And yes, they did. And it's okay. It's even better because now, we have that contrasting experience of having been asleep to opening back into the divine light,
Have you looked at, there's a channel called, it'll come to me, that does about the giant trees. Have you looked into the giant cedar trees? What the hell? I just had a name in my head, but it'll come to me. Amazing. Like these big rock formations are just the little branches from a tree. And then that mountain over there is the stump of the tree. So I grew up in the neighborhood that I live in right now. And I grew up in the woods as kids. We didn't have iPads and all that stuff. And we would go play in the woods on the rocks. And these rock formations, I know that they're trees now. I've been waiting for a day where I have some time to just go back into my childhood woods and look at these with real eyes for the first time. Okay. Because I know exactly what I'm seeing. It's literally, it's a tree that decayed and turned into rock. Amazing. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. To have that gauze pulled, it is an exciting process.
And I always say this, that once you see that we don't live on a globe, you will never be bored for a second. I don't care if you're stuck in a traffic jam for 5 hours, right? You have something to think about, something to research, something to listen to. I mean, the amount of knowledge that is coming out right now is amazing. I always tell people that are just learning about this, I'm like, do not send your kids to college. Pull them out of high school. Homeschool them. Let them listen to Crow 777 radio. Are you a Crow listener?
Yeah.
Okay. And just, here's college. This is my ideal college. You have to listen. Crow puts out 2 episodes a week. So listen to 3 old ones and 2 new ones every week. So you got 5 2-hour classes a week. That's it. Now, you can listen to that while you're riding your bike. You can listen to that if you have waterproof thing while you're kite surfing. You can listen to it while you're on the beach playing Frisbee. You can listen to it while you're hiking in the Appalachian Trails. Doesn't matter. Okay. And then at the end of the week, it'd be nice to have a discussion with somebody or even just, have other people listening to the same stuff so you can talk about it. 1 year of that, that's somebody that I want to know. That's somebody that I want to hire, right? Those people are useful people in this world versus coming out of college. I just watched Cambridge University going over the new photos from James Webb. Oh my God, these people are so dumb. Okay. But it's coming from Cambridge University. I mean, it is so ridiculous. I wanted to show you one thing. And I have another video coming out I think I already put it out. James Webb. So this is my friend Jenny, who's a TikToker, and she has this little app called Canva, and she went through and created an image just on her phone, probably while she was driving, okay, with her left hand, all right? And it looks better than Hubble. Not Hubble, better than James Webb. And now she's on TikTok putting these up, having arguments with Globers. She's telling them that they're fake, and they're telling her it's real. And she's waiting to reveal that she made this, okay? Absolute insanity.
Amazing. Tell us about your app before we go.
My app is called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And one of the most exciting features on it is the friend finder. Because when you become a flat earther, it used to be like, oh my God, I'm all alone. But now there's flat earthers everywhere. These are the flat earthers that are around me. I can message them through this app. I could tap on a dot. I could look at their profile. I could send them a message. I could do a meetup. Right now, there's 422 people within 50 kilometers. I chose 50 kilometers. I'm having a meetup at Rico's Bar and Grill at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Boom, everyone shows up. Right? Amazing. Fantastic. People are using it as a dating app because, as you and I know, are you single, may I ask?
I am single.
Okay. Is a guy that thinks the earth is a spinning globe a prospect for you?
No, Dave.
Unless, of course, you could teach him.
Yes.
Right? So, the Glober's argument was, oh, good luck getting a job. Good luck doing this. Flat earther. Now the table has turned because your world is getting thinner and thinner because flat earthers are only going to hire flat earthers. Flat earthers are only going to date flat earthers. Flat earthers are only going to work for flat earthers. Okay. Right. Period. We're not hiring Globers. We're not marrying Globers. Right. We're not giving opportunities. It used to be a secret society, kind of still is in the group we're in, but it's a coming out society. And so the app is literally, it gets by Google censorship, right? Every day, featured video. And I just tell people when they're like, oh my God, is the earth flat? Where do I learn more? Just watch the featured video every day, right? Right next to it is the archive button. Watch every featured video for the last 4 years, okay? That'll keep you busy. The more resources button, tons of stuff. Like if you see a debunking video about flat earth, go here to the debunkers videos. Find that video, and we broke it down for you, so it's easier to understand. My interviews are right here. All sorts of stuff. 2 very fun TikTok channels. All sorts of stuff. And there's books, right? If you that map I just showed, the navigator who crossed the ice wall. That is a very cool, interesting book. Tons of books. Tons of products. Now, these are people's products. Some are mine, some are other people, but these are flat earthers selling flat earth stuff. I don't charge for it. I just want a place where you want to buy something flat earth. Like my girlfriend, I got her this pendant, and she just got me. Oh, I just took it off because I was swimming. She got me a smaller one, a guy's one with a flat earth on it. Amazing, fun stuff. Like my t-shirts are right here. This t-shirt is in my t-shirt shop. Right? This subtle.
I had the delight I would feel just seeing you walk down the street.
Oh, I wear it all the time. Paige is usually like, are you going to wear that today? I'm like, no one's even going to notice. And they don't. Globers look at it and they're like, oh, that's a statement. He's like, yeah, the world is small. They don't know what to make of it. Right? But I have less subtle ones in there too. I have one that, are you a blue dot? That one is the most effective. Blue dot from being a blue dot on the map. People go, what's a blue dot? Then you break out the map, you break out the friend finder, and you go, oh, these are blue dots. And they go, what are those? Right? What are those? And then you show them, and then they're hooked because they asked the question. You didn't come out. Right. So that's why I love wearing shirts and stuff. I have flat earth coffee too. It's really great gourmet coffee. Same as you can buy anywhere else, but it's got a flat earth label on it. Put that in your break room at work. Put that on your counter at home, right? Right? So you're always planting seeds, right? Tons of stuff. The app has a million resources, and it's only going to get better and better. When you're talking to people, you hit the images. This is loading for the first time because this is a test version. And you can talk about how absolutely ridiculous, this is the moon spinning around the path of the Earth, which is spinning around the path of the sun, which is orbiting, right? People are like, that's really my model that I believe in. Or if you say they believe in the moon landing, you can zoom in on this puppy, right? Right? This is so dumb. Would you put a kid in there and submerge that in a lake? Because you would have to believe that he would be fine if you believe that that's real. Tons of stuff. And the bottom, there's tons of good memes, the maps that you like. Great way to teach people. And I'm adding in by the end of this month, the messaging service, like in the friend finder, when you tap on a dot, you can just send basic text messages. I'm adding Telegram had a baby with iMessage and went into the app. Okay. It's going to be able to, you're going to have groups, you're going to have friends, you're going to have voice calling, video files, previews on links, everything that all the good messengers have. It's all coming to the app in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah.
The app is incredible already. So
yeah,
it's really just like,
here's a fun one. I kind of made it for myself, but some people like it. This little button here, if you click it, and now it's not on the app yet, so don't look for it. We're just finishing. You can select one of these 3 sounds or a custom sound, and then every time somebody downloads the app, you get an animation of the globe popping and a flat Earth reappearing, and then an orange dot, which means there's a new person that joined. So it could be very annoying, but it's also like if you're hanging out with some flat Earth friends, like ping, 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 it could be a lot of fun, right?
Because it's happening, for many reasons related to the incredible lightness that is coming from the darkness that's emerging.
Right.
Yeah, people are coming together in the ways that you're describing. It's awesome.
There's a knockoff app on the Android Play Store, the Google Play Store. So to make sure, just go to flatearthdave.com.
Yeah.
The link is right there. You can pick Android or Apple. And the app's $3. That's it. Have it forever. But if you want the dark sky weather app, which comes with it, you want to be able to message other people. And if you want to be able to view and fill out a profile, it's $11 a year. That's it. Okay. $11 a year. Don't subscribe until you want those features. The app didn't used to have those features, and everyone loved the app anyway. So that's just a bonus.
Totally. Amazing. Yeah. Better than any dating app prices. I love it.
Well, it's literally becoming a dating app, because think about it. You go on, Match or whatever. They need a flat Earth category. They're eventually going to do it. But that every single dot in there is either somebody you'd like to work with, somebody you'd like to be friends with, or romantic with. They're all candidates, every single one of them. Right? And now the other advantage that flat earthers have, if a glober and a flat earther are a couple, the glober has 0% chance that this person will go back to the globe.
Yeah.
The flat earther has a good chance, if that person loves them and has a mind that can think, that they can show them the truth.
Yeah.
So we have a greater than 50% chance that we can bring the other person over. So if you're in a relationship, glober versus non-globe, it's a problem. It really is. You can pretend it's not, but it's going to eat you from the inside. And you just share with them, like, hey, agree to have movie night once a week with me. Agree to watch the daily video every day. Short video, breakfast, just one video. We don't have to talk about it. Just watch. And then they'll start secretly watching, right? And then they'll be there. I believe everyone, if they take the time and look, that they'll see. The problem is the hypnosis, the mind control has stopped people from even willing to look.
Yeah, that's where the trauma comes in. And I have lived experience with that. It can be such a barrier to the inquiry beyond what is reasonable or rational because of what it threatens, to even ask these questions. And I'm so grateful, Dave, that you have done the work. Oh my God, your technological resources. I mean, so everybody knows I did not give him a single question that I asked in advance, and your Rolodex of resources and visuals is so incredible. And I'm very, very grateful that you've paved this path, because while I am absolutely a believer in discovering for myself, what I will ultimately subscribe to as truth. I also know intuitively when I have found a trustworthy source who's done the legwork. And so you've done that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will share, we'll share your links with everyone and make sure that people feel supported if this is a calling.
My YouTube channel, with short videos right there for everybody, but especially short for people that aren't going to watch a full documentary. All my links are there. My interview channels are all on my website, flatearthdave.com, which basically just brings you to the flatearthpodcast.com, but it's easier to remember, flatearthdave.com. All the links are there. The app is there. If you want to check out the coffee, it's there. If you want to download a cool watch face, I have the graphic there. You just click on it and it goes right into your files. Then you can add it to your watch. There's tons of stuff. There's the crash courses there. Scroll down and watch those videos. Amazing. The movie, The Next Level, by Hibbler Productions. You can own a high definition copy. People love that. Did you watch The Next Level yet?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
I watched everything.
Well, that's amazing. Because once you're into this, you're like, everybody watches everything. It's such a great community.
It is.
Yeah.
And they share so many of the values that I already uphold.
Right.
As you said, there's so much consistency in the perspective. So,
and for those of you that can travel to South Carolina in October, Flattoberfest, October 21st. Check it out. It's a big music festival conference, 2 days or 3 days actually, because there's the party in the park, and it's a blast. There's gonna be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of us, and it's just like every person that you turn around and talk to is literally your best friend.
Love it.
Amazing. Flattoberfest. You can find it in the app under the shopping cart button or flatearthfestivals.com.
Amazing, Dave. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. See ya.